Hello and welcome back to the channel, fam. I am your host, Vortex from MobileMusicPro.com, your home for mobile music production. And if you're new to the channel, what we do here is we try to help and create more mobile music producers. And don't forget, you can always find more videos just like this one in the description below. So smash those likes and subscribe if you want to learn more about music production on your iOS device. Now, in today's video, we're going to be explaining the concept known as parallel compression, otherwise known as New York compression. And all that parallel compression really means is blending a dry or lightly processed signal with a more heavily processed version of that same signal. Now, typically we use compressors to flatten out the sound and remove peaks to make the signal more even all around. But with parallel compression, you actually get to keep those dynamics while still getting that lush richness that the compressor provides. Now, this technique is typically used on drums, but really can be used on anything that you want to pop or make more apparent in your mix. Which means you can use this on a kick, snare, vocals, or even on your master track if you want. Today we're going to be demonstrating this technique on multiple different tracks, so you can really get a good idea of how this effect works. And so again, all parallel compression really is duplicating your dry signal and completely distorting or squashing that second duplicated signal, pretty much removing all of the dynamics from it, essentially making it almost completely flat, and then blending those two signals together, both the dry and the wet, until it sounds good. And on a little bit of the advanced side, we do want to make sure that we are applying this effect pre-fader. And that's because if you don't do this, then when you move the volume fader up and down in your mixer, you'll actually be affecting the parallel compression effect instead of just adjusting the volume. We instead want to adjust that effect on its own separate fader. But that is a bit more of an advanced tip for now. All you really have to worry about is just creating that send and then sending it out to the track. It really is pretty much as simple as that. Alright, with that intro aside, let's get right into showing you how to use parallel compression in Cubasis 3. Alright, hello and welcome everybody. We are wishing you the happiest of the happiest, and we hope you are having a fantastic Labor Day weekend. Now, of course, we are showing you how to do this in Cubasis 3, but this effect can be achieved in any DAW with a compressor. And before we get started, we'd also like to mention that we'll be using compressors in this video, but if you want, you can also use a limiter instead, because all we're trying to do here for that second track is squash it by any means necessary. Alright, now let's get started. As you can see, we do have our project pulled up here in Cubasis 3, and we just have this single track with a drum loop. This drum loop is called Funky Groove 01 and can be found within Cubasis 3's Media Manager. So to locate this loop, we simply tap on Media, and then double click our drum loops, and then we can find our Funky Groove 001 right here. Alright, let's close that. Now the first method of parallel compression that we're going to go over here is the track duplication method. So before we do that, let's go ahead and play this loop so you know what it sounds like. Alright, perfect. Now what we're going to do first to achieve this parallel compression effect is we're going to duplicate our track. So to do that, we tap our duplicate button on the bottom of the screen. And now we have our second track ready to go. And on this second track, what we're going to do is go to the insert effects, and we're going to add a compressor. So we'll tap to add effect, and we'll go to the internal effects, and we'll tap on compressor. Now what we're going to use this compressor for is again to squash this sound. So we do have to set some settings in here to achieve that. So what we're going to do is be very aggressive with this compression, because we won't be using the entire signal. We're just going to be blending it with the first signal. So let's go ahead and set our ratio all the way up. We're going to turn this up as much as we can. The compressor within Cubasis 3 can go up to a 120 ratio, so we'll use that. But you can go as high as all the way up to 150 if you'd like. Again, we're really trying to squash that sound. And we'll set our attack all the way to 0 because we want to grab every single transient that we can here. And we'll set our release to around 25% or so, because we do want to hold on to it for a little while here. Alright, so now we have our ratio set all the way to the right at 20:1, with our attack at 0 and our release around 25%. And let's adjust our threshold a little bit. We'll pull that down a little bit again so we can grab as much transients as we can. And now we should have a really squashed sound. So let's go ahead and solo this track by itself. Alright, perfect. That sound is absolutely squashed, and again, you would never use these settings by themselves on a track. These aggressive compressor settings are only used for parallel compression. So let's go ahead and close this now. And just real quick, we wanted to show you what the actual WAV file looks like now with this compression on it. So to do that, we'll just print the audio by clicking the freeze button. And here you can clearly see that the audio has been absolutely smashed and there's basically no dynamics left in the signal. So we'll close out of that and unfreeze this track and delete this track. What we're going to do is we're going to mute this track and go to our mixer and make sure the volume is set all the way to the bottom, as low as possible. And the final step to take care of is going to be blending this in with the first track. So what we're going to do is play the loop back and we'll slowly blend this in to taste. So let's unmute the compressed track and hit play. Alright, that sounds pretty good. So now what we'll do so you can hear the difference between the two tracks is we'll first play the regular drum loop track, and then we'll mute and unmute the compressed track. But first we will turn down our master track just a little bit so that we don't clip. Alright, now let's hit play. Alright, perfect. Now as you can hear, not only did this technique make our drums louder, but they also made them more fuller and more aggressive. You can really hear that all of these standard transients were kept. You can still hear that snare, you can still hear those hats perfectly, but there was a lot more energy brought in with that second track. The results really do speak for themselves. Alright, and the second method that we're going to be using to achieve parallel compression inside of Cubasis 3 is using a send effect. Now, Cubasis 3 doesn't have as complex as routing as most desktop DAWs. Within Cubasis, we can only route our tracks through one group at a time. So this is definitely going to be a bit different than what you would do on the desktop version of Cubase. Okay, let's show you how to do this now. What we're going to do is we're going to add a group track for our drums. So we'll tap the Add button at the bottom, and then tap the Group button. And we will route our first track. And let's go ahead and just name this drum group. And we'll change the color to orange. Alright, that just makes things a little bit easier here. Now on our drum group, what we're going to do is we're going to add a compressor, but this time in our send effects. So we'll go to Send Effects, and we'll tap Add Effect. And let's go ahead and go to Internal Effects, and then choose our compressor. And we'll go ahead and set those same settings that we did before. We'll set the threshold down around 20 dB. We'll move our ratio all the way to the right. We'll set our attack down to 0, and we'll set our release to around 25%. Now this time, instead of blending a second track, what we're going to do is actually blend in the effect with this fader over here. So let's go ahead and close this, and we'll set our fader all the way down to 0, and now we'll hit play and slowly blend this in to taste. Alright, now let's go ahead and see what this sounds like. First, we'll go ahead and disable the effect, and then we'll enable the effect while hitting play. Alright, perfect. As you can hear, we pretty much achieve the same effect as duplicating the track, but this method is much easier. And as you probably saw, it did ended up getting a little bit loud, so we did adjust the master fader in the mixer. Because again, not only does this effect increase loudness, but it really does increase the entire body of the sound, making it much more present and able to cut through a mix. And now we're going to try the parallel compression effect on a vocal. The vocals we'll be using today is coming from Vengeance Dance Explosion Volume 1. So first, let's quickly solo this so you can hear what it sounds like, and then we'll apply the effect.
Used to be much stronger, I can wait no longer. I thought I would see you again.
Now, just as before, we're going to essentially repeat the exact same steps. So first we will add a vocal group track. So we'll go to Add at the bottom, and then tap on Group. And let's assign the first track, which is of course the only track we have in this project right now. So we'll assign track 1. And let's go ahead and rename this to Vocal Group. And just as before, we will go to our Send Effects, and let's add a compressor here. So we'll go to Internal Effects, and tap on Compressor. Except this time we are going to leave the threshold around 14 dB or so. The rest of the settings will stay the same, so we're going to squash this vocal by setting the ratio all the way to the right with a 20:1 ratio, which means that for every 20 dB we'll only let 1 dB through, and we'll set our attack all the way to 0, so that we can grab every single transient that we can, and we'll set our release down to around 25% or so, because again we do want to hold on to these transients for a little bit before we release them, and then we'll set our fader all the way to 0 so that we can begin blending this in. So let's close the compressor, and now we'll hit play and begin blending in this effect.
Used to be much stronger, I can wait no longer. I thought I would see you again. Used to be much stronger, I can wait no longer. I thought I would see you again. Used to be my...
Alright, that setting right there should do it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to solo this with and without the effect. So let's go back and disable our compressor, and we will enable this while we're hitting play.
Used to be much stronger, I can wait no longer. I thought I would see you again. Used to be much stronger, I can wait no longer. I thought I would see you again.
Alright, and as you can hear just like before, we are blending these two signals together, allowing us to keep all of those transients and all of the dynamic range of our original signal, while still blending in that compressed sound that's going to give us more presence, more loudness, and overall round out the sound much better. Alright, hello and welcome back everybody. We just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the video this far. And thanks again to everybody watching this video premiere live. We really do absolutely enjoy talking with you and answering your questions. So if you haven't yet attended one of our live premieres, make sure to come on in and check us out. Now, we do hope that this video has cleared up some of the confusion that you may have had about parallel compression. Technically, this is considered an advanced mixing technique, but just about every producer you've ever heard uses it. And so we thought we'd try to explain this technique and show you how to use it as simple as possible. And hopefully you did learn something new that can help your mixes sound that much better. Now, we will be covering more advanced mixing techniques like this one in the future, so if you did enjoy this video, please let us know by giving us a thumbs up, sharing out the show, and leaving a comment. Your feedback really does help us to know how we're doing, and whether or not we are achieving our goals. So never hesitate to hit us up on our socials to ask questions or just say hi. And if you are enjoying this content, please consider subscribing to the channel because we have a lot more to come. And so, until next time everybody, keep talking music and we'll see you later. So smash those likes and subscribe if you want to learn more about iOS. God damn it. And we will be covering more advanced. And we will be covering more clovering. Man, this is gonna turn out horrible.